Hello again. Today I thought we'd sow some seeds, some flower seeds and some lettuce and sweet corn. When you've filled your pot or container with compost like this, check the seed packet to see what it says about when's the best time to sow, what month and how deep. The information's usually on the back. It can be a bit confusing, but here in the East Midlands it's best to gauge what the weather's going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. There's no point in sowing seeds into the cold, wet ground, especially if you're sowing them direct, or like lettuces which need to go into a pot where they're going to stay. While it's cold, they won't germinate. Just a waste of time, and it won't give you very good results. The depth of sowing depends on the seeds. Large seeds, for example, like these sweet corn, they need to be sown about twice their depth. That sounds a bit confusing. It isn't. It just means push them under the soil. But smaller seeds, like these lettuce, can be sprinkled onto the surface. Just like that. And then covered over very gently with some more compost. When it says so sparingly, it means it. If every lettuce in here germinates, you could be eating an awful lot of lettuce all in 1 week or over 2 weeks. And I don't think anybody likes lettuce that much. So just think about what you're doing. This is a variety of a cut and come again, which means you can keep cutting it for quite a few pickings. Doesn't form a whole lettuce. So it's quite a good one for beginners. It's quite good for families because it means you get a nice variety of lettuce. So that's some lettuce done. These sunflowers, let's do those next. I like a deep pot for my sunflowers because these are quite big seeds and they're going to be in the ground for a long while. These are an Italian brand, so they do a mixed variety, lots and lots of different types all in one go. And the instructions on the back can be a bit confusing. There's Roman numerals, it tells you have to figure out when you've got to sow them. It's easy. Again, sprinkle them on the top. Not too many, otherwise they won't have room to grow. Can't get them back in the packet. There we go. And again, just cover them over with the soil. And then you can just put a bit more on top. When it says twice its depth, it means if the seed's that big, cover it that deep. But some things like lettuce, tiny, tiny seeds just need covering. So that's some sunflowers. Hopefully we'll have those growing in the front garden at Melton very soon. I thought we'd grow some pot marigolds. These are a particular favourite of mine. They're really good for attracting the bees. Again, these are quite a small seed, so they can be sown on the surface. A funny shape, they're like little worms. So again, you don't want too many because they will crowd out. So I'll put all those in. There we go. If you crowd out your seeds, put too many in a pot, they won't grow well, and you'll end up having to split them up before they've formed proper roots. We'll show you that another time. So there we are. There's some calendula, marigolds, and finally, this is something I've used quite a few times for sweet corn. I've got a variety here that apparently was introduced from the United States in 1902. It's from a heritage seed company. They're called Golden Bantam. Interesting, I've not tried them before. Now, toilet rolls are probably the easiest inners. These are probably the easiest things if you haven't got pots or access to pots, because we all have access to these. So, these, as I say, are quite big seeds. So you can get one of those, push it in up to probably about your first knuckle on your finger. Push those in. Easy to do, not complicated. Just have to remember which one you've done and not put two in a pot, because again, these will crowd out. The good thing about things with big seeds and toilet roll holders is that you can plant the whole thing into the soil. So once these have developed roots and they're coming out the bottom, You've got good shoots on top, but you've got good roots. You can see exactly when it's time to plant them. They're going to nice open ground that's had some feed in it, preferably. So there we are. Now, top tip, make sure you label them, otherwise I've forgotten exactly what's in these. I tend to put the date of when I sowed them on the back as well. That way, if after a few weeks nothing's happening, you can think, maybe they've not worked this time. Some of these will need covering, some of these won't. If it says under glass on the instructions, that means it needs to be kept under a cover until you can see the first germination, then you take them off. In the meantime, I'll just show you one other thing. These are some tomato seedlings that I sowed for Melton. These are now developing what they call the second leaves. So these, when that develops a little bit more, these can be potted on into their own individual pots, and hopefully we'll have lots of nice tomato plants in the summer. So why don't you give that a go? Let us know how you get on. We'd really like to hear from you. Okay, have a nice time. Bye.